justice for all.
Here. Councilman Barrett.
Here.
Councilman O'Brien. Yes. Councilman Malone.
Present.
Councilman Manuel.
Present.
Town Clerk's office has received reports from the following departments. They will be on my file and office for review. Building, receiving taxes, assessor, supervisor, police, highway, youth, water, controller, and tenants.
As we do, from the board, the announcements, I'm sorry, Lisa.
Just a couple. I just want to thank all the department heads that I've met with over the past month and the chief last month to go over the budget process. We did put a lot of time into it, Jim put a lot of time into it. We had a lot of input from each of the department heads, so yeah, I just want to thank you for all that time on it. Saturday after Thanksgiving, Small Business Saturday that's being promoted all over the place. Our town will be doing different promotions, businesses in town, but we just want to ask and remind people that shopping locals, what's keeping our town going. This Saturday, a bunch of our officers are doing a polar plunge along with Skodak and Rensselaer in North Greenbush. Up in Lake George, the Cool Cops have a team, so that should be a lot of fun. I plan on attending and not plunging, so, appreciate the officers for all the work that they're doing. And, just a charitable work, it's always good. And I also want to thank the residents for all their votes. They get me for another 4 years, so I'm looking forward to the challenge. And, I want to thank you, Supervisor, for everything. The past 12 years, it's been 14 years. Okay. But it's been a tough economy, it's been a tough road, and, God bless you, Rick, you've, kept us together. I think we're in great shape, and, it's because of you, so thank you
I
very
was
much.
going to say myself, so
And,
December meeting.
well, it needs to be said.
Thanks.
Thank you. That's it.
Could you just go down there, because I just put it into my, sorry.
Phil, anything at this time?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. A few things. Our junior midget team down at Pop Warner's playing the Super Bowl. They're playing against Colony, 1 o'clock at Bleecker Stadium.
We have two teams.
We have the junior Pee-wees that also made it. I don't know when their game is going to be, but I know a couple people in the junior midgets. So get on down there and support them. Again, we have great teams in this town for football. We have for years. Starting with the architect right here, Joe Cherubino. We've had a lot of great teams in the Super Bowls, and so go down and support those guys because they deserve it. We had a best with the fire department installation on Saturday. Got a bunch of great officers put in. They'll be serving for a year. They had a nice get together, and just a great department that often goes overlooked. It's snugged away out in the outskirts of town, near the West Sand Lake border. But it's a great group of people, and they do a fantastic job. Before I went to that, Phillips Road, go down and support the other fire department. They do pizza night every second Saturday. They have great pizza. I've been down there a couple times the last couple months, and they really do a good job. And so head on down there, maybe 4:30 on Saturday. Yeah, a busy Saturday. On Saturday, we also did. We spoke to a group of Boy Scouts. Councilman Manners and myself, we met with them right here in the chambers, and we had the kids come on up and sit up front and play us for a day, and it was great to see the kids. I mean, we asked them what they wanted to do, and they got older. You had engineers, and you had cops, and you had policemen. So it's great to see that our young kids are getting involved, and fulfilling their civic duty. So that was fun as well. So it's another perk of the job. And then last but not concerns you. We have a donation box right out here outside the town clerk's office. They're going to be picking stuff up next Tuesday. So any non-perishable food items that you have, bring them through, drop them off, and they're going to be dropped off at Concerns You on Tuesday. And remember what Sue said. Personally, for myself, it's been a tough 3 years here. A lot of campaigning, but we got through it, and I want to thank all the voters and all my supporters. It was definitely a good turnout, considering that there wasn't any major names on the ticket. You know, it's fun to look forward to the next 4 years, and what we can do for the town, and continue to move this town forward. You know, it's a really unique opportunity, and I'm happy to be working with the board that I'll be working with. I want to thank the incoming supervisor and wish him the best of luck. And also, again, say what Sue said, you know, thank you, supervisor, and he'll always be around for our guidance. And, thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil. Before you go to Rick, I do want to thank Phil and Rick for filling in for me as the Boy Scouts. I guess Rick can give you more details, but thank you guys for that.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, just to echo, I mean, we got in here Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, and, you know, when the supervisor asked Phil and me to do this, I said to myself, well, let's see, it's been 35 years since I've been out of Scouts. I was senior patrol leader in my troop way back when, but how am I going to talk to, how am I going to speak to 10-year-olds? I got in here, I almost froze, because I really was almost at a loss of how I was going to keep these kids interested, engaged, not insult their intelligence by speaking down to them, but not speak over them. Phil comes in here, he puts them all up on the dais here to give them a feel for what it is, you know, goes on here in this room anyway. And he has them fill out little, you know, basically 3x5s on what they want to, you know, what it is they want to do when they grow up. And it engaged them. It was very, you know, stimulating to the group. Basically, 10-year-old Weeblo Cub Pack. And it was very nice.
Nobody chose this to do.
Well, I'll tell you, they were thinking about it. Strong consideration.
Thank you. As we do with reports, Joe?
Wait a minute.
You've got Jenny.
Oh, that's right.
I haven't been, I wanted to say that, to echo everyone else about the election outcome, I welcome our new supervisor-elect. I see that he's here. I'm sad to see my partner over here will not be here in January. I want to thank you, Rick, for all that you've done over the last 14 years. And certainly to give congratulations to both Sue and Phil and John Murphy. So congratulations all of you and to those that ran. And Linda Kennedy.
Don't forget
I-
Madam Town Clerk.
Oh, Linda, I apologize. It almost seemed like it was a fact or a, sorry, Linda, excuse me. I stand corrected.
And to Kevin Angle.
And to Kevin Angle, thank you. And to all those that ran, to the commitment of your time and your energy and your effort and your commitment to the town. So I thank you for doing that as well. On October 27th, I attended a Rensselaer County Chamber of Commerce luncheon, and it was very interesting. It was on economic development, opportunities for you and your business. It was over in Troy in Hilton Garden Inn. And the thing that really made me feel so proud was that they honored two of the panelists were two featured businesses from East Greenbush. One was X-Ray Optical Systems, which employs around 90 people here in East Greenbush. And the other was Regeneron Pharmaceuticals. So there was a panel discussion with Bob Passanella from the County IDA. Very informative session, and it was great to see two local businesses being represented there. I wanted to do a shout out to Becker's, just up the street here. On October 30th, they hosted their first ever Halloween get-together for the community. It was extremely successful. They had hay rides and pony rides and maze, and it was just great. It was $1 admission, and the kids really, really loved it. And they are, if you missed that one, you've got an opportunity. December 3rd, they're going to do a holiday open house from 11 to 4. Again, free to the community. They're going to have a lot of local businesses there, so it'll be a chance to meet the local business owner and kind of piggyback on what Sue said, to use them more, not just on the Small Business Saturday, but use them more because that's what keeps the engine of East Greenbush going. The Community Hose Fire Company, our local fire company, they are doing a disaster relief fundraiser for folks in Prattsville, New York. They were definitely devastated by Hurricane Irene. and the community hose company has sort of adopted them. They were the first responders to go down there after the hurricane. And they are doing a fundraiser. The tickets will be both in Linda's office, or newly elected Linda, and in Tony Murphy's office. They have raffle tickets. The drawing will be in January if you choose to participate. That's where some of the tickets are, or get them from the community hose members. But it's a really good cause. And the reason they can't be here tonight is because they're being honored by the Greene County Legislature for their efforts. So I think that's pretty remarkable, and we really should give them a round of applause. The last thing I wanted to mention is, you'll see when you came in, you may have noticed there's a sign out there for a public workshop. I don't have a color version, but it's a public workshop that will be held on Wednesday, December 7th, 6:30, right here in the town hall. And the purpose is to discuss a draft plan of desired recreational amenities that we would like to see in this community. It is a draft plan. It's a chance to comment on the draft, share your ideas, and I do hope we'll get a good participation. It's a really, they've done a good job. I've been to several of their meetings since we had the initial meeting, and very impressed so far, but we really need more input, and that's it. Thank you.
Joe? Now it's your turn.
Thank you. Mr. Supervisor, I was going to give a report tonight, but Daniela has about a 5-page report, so I'm just going to sit here and say I have nothing further.
Thank you, Joe. Dan?
Thank you. It's not that long. First of all, today marked the end of our fall after-school bowling program for schools, DPS, Green Meadow, and Belltop. We had a total of 69 kids that participated, so it was a really good turnout. And they were given trophies, and they had a pizza party on the final day. On Saturday, October 29th, from 2 to 4, we were a part of the Price Chopper Halloween party, and we helped hand out candy and cider donuts and cider to the trick-or-treaters throughout Columbia Plaza. And I just wanted to thank Brian Michaels for his musical entertainment services. That was a lot of fun, even though it did snow, but then it got better. And then on Halloween, we had our toddler Halloween party here in Town Hall, and that was from 10 to 12. And the kids and their families trick-or-treated all throughout the department offices, and we got to see them in their cute little outfits. And then we had pumpkin painting and picture taking and refreshments down at the end of the hall that Anita decorated, and it looked really, really cool if anybody got to see it. And I just wanted to thank all the departments for participating in that and helping hand out candy, because that was really nice. Coming up next month, we have the annual Holiday Homes Contest, as well as the tree lighting ceremony. The homes will be judged on exterior decorations, and people can fill out a registration form, or they can call me or email me, and I can get their information at the office. And the judging will take place on Monday, December 19th at 6 p.m. So me and a group of people will drive around to all the registered homes, and they'll be judged on 5 categories that include originality, effort, coordination of details, lighting, and overall. And there'll be 3 winners, I believe. And their names will be mentioned on the town website and the local newspapers. And then next board meeting, right before that at 6 p.m. is when we're going to do the tree lighting ceremony. So bring your family and your kids down, because there might be some surprises from the jolly old fella. And there'll be refreshments and other things too. Oh, yeah, Joe, that's
Jolly.
But, and finally, wrapping up, we held a raffle throughout the month of October, and it was to benefit Making Strides for Breast Cancer, and we raised $113 that was donated to the American Cancer Society. And I just wanted to thank Price Chopper Hannaford, Four Arms Farm, Becker's Farm, Serenity Day Spa, Panera Bread, and Hoffman's Playland for their donations for the raffle.
Thanks, Dan. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I have filed a monthly report from the town clerk and the board. A copy is also available on our website if you would like to peruse it there. While you're looking at that, feel free to go to click on our current events link to see what cases we've been working on in the last week or so. Councilperson Mangold mentioned the polar plunge. Let me just fill in a little bit. The Poet Plunge is a fundraiser for the Special Olympics. The Special Olympics was adopted by the statewide law enforcement several years ago. Anybody can sponsor a plunge by contacting the department. Officer Ernie Tubbs is the Special Olympics representative for our department. We'll be glad to arrange that you sponsor a plunge. 479-2525 is our admin number. Leave a message for Ernie on his voicemail, and we'll hook you up with the sponsorship and make sure that your sponsorship is listed prominently on the printed program for that event. I'd also like to make mention that although the weather's been very favorable to us the last couple of weeks, that the town does have a snow emergency rule. On-street parking is permitted throughout the town on town streets, with the very few exceptions where parking is restricted. On-street parking is a real benefit in this town. There's a lot of towns where you can't park on the street. However, our snow emergency rule is automatic. Whenever there's a snowfall of 4 inches or more, on-street parking becomes prohibited. So, as we know, we have to keep our eye on the forecast, and when the forecast calls for 4 or more, we have to bring our cars off the street into the driveways, and until the snow emergency is over, and it's over when it's declared over by the Commissioner of Public Works. Just a reminder that season's coming up, and now's a moment that we can mention the parking rule. I have nothing further to report.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The reports from the 5 departments are filed with the town clerk. And Chief, we're already in that season, so in case you didn't notice that, on the 29th of October, we had snowstorm surprise. We were not really prepared for it, but thanks to Eric and Romaine, mechanics, we got 5 trucks ready in a day and a half. So yeah, we got through it all right, but we're still cleaning up from it. There was a lot of damage, mostly in the upper end. If you didn't notice, if you didn't see it, you wouldn't believe the difference in the snow from down here to up on Horizon View Drive. It was probably 2 inches down here, and there was 6 inches up in the upper end. So we've been cleaning up that since the snowstorm. Snowstorm came in the middle of a lot of the projects that we had going, so it really slowed everything down. We're doing fall cleanup now. We've been through the town a couple different times now, so there's 1 more week of fall cleanup. That's next week. The following week is appliance pickup. You call 477-6103 if you have a refrigerator or stove or appliance. We'll put you on the list. That's starting Monday, the 28th. Run for that week. The water department, they were busy this month finishing up there. They replaced several services on Hampton Avenue. New services for the residents up there. And that involves a lot, a lot of blacktopping and everything. They worked hard on that to get all that done. They buttoned up the Vermont Ave job, their part. That's been going on for a few years now. We're done with everything except the paving of the roads of Vermont. Everything else is done. Sewer, water, landscaping. And that part will be done next spring. We're very happy down there. That's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe? Nothing new to report, Mr. Supervisor. Okay, Joe, thank you. We'll move to the open public privilege portion. No speaker shall state name and address prior to addressing the board, and should be granted the floor to 5 minutes. The board thanks everyone in attendance for their understanding and also for the desire to actively participate in the decision-making process locally. Who would like to be first?
I'll get started.
No, you go.
No, play it.
You sure?
Yeah.
Jack Conway, 232 Hudson Avenue. I have about a million things on my mind tonight, but I spent the last 3 days taking care of my 2.5-year-old granddaughter, so my brain is mush. But if you need an update on Dora the Explorer, or you can see me after the meeting. And I'll get you. I want to congratulate Sue and Phil, Tony and Linda on their victories. I want to congratulate Corinne, Ed, and Dan on their campaigns. I think those three represent a serious expansion of the talent pool in local politics, and I urge all three of them to carry on. I also had this thought that, you know, if you walk into town hall, you just come in off the street for some piece of business, you either instinctively turn right and run into Tony, or you turn left and run into Linda and Kim, and I think they're like the face, the first impression of this town. I just want to say I think we make a beautiful first impression. I think those people are really top shelf. I want to congratulate Keith Langley on his victory, and I urge everybody to get behind him. Keith's success is all of our success, and his difficulties are all of our difficulties, and I think we need to support him, encourage him, and give him every piece of help we can. Rick McCabe, I just want to thank you on a personal level for your personal kindness. Both of my sons, the first time they went to vote, they're 6 years apart, and I remember the first morning at breakfast saying, do you know who you're going to vote for? And they both said the exact same thing. They said, I do know I'm going to vote for Mrs. McCabe's husband. Because Mrs. McCabe was their favorite teacher at Columbia High School. But in my household, Rick, you've over the years assumed an identity of your own.
Other places too.
Yeah. And just for the way that you treated me and the personal kindness and the open door and all that, I want to thank you. And also, if you need any advice now on Grandpa,
Well, I got a 3.5-year-old.
Yeah. So
I understand Dora the Explorer.
yeah, so if you need an update on Dora, I'm ready. And I also want you to know I have a collection of 4,000 Irish rebel songs. So if you need some time to fill.
I've heard them all when I played rugby.
Oh, I have versions.
Stop saying nice things about me. I don't feel bad now.
No, I know, but I really do mean it, and thank you for everything.
Thank you, Jack.
The other thing, though, is that, you know, we're in an interesting moment now, because the last 2 years have been kind of permanently contentious. There's always been an election working. We now have 2 years. This team is in place. And Mario Cuomo was famous for saying that you campaign in poetry, but you govern in prose. Now, if you read the blogs in this town, poetry is not the first word that comes to mind. Let me just say that. But the point he was making is that it's a different argument to campaign than it is to govern. And for the next 2 years, this team's in place. We all need to make it work. We all need to pull together. We need to remember at the end of the day we're neighbors. And I really think that a lot of what happens in campaigns is hurtful, and it's the heat of the moment kind of stuff. But I think we need to move on now, and we need to move forward positively. We need to move forward together, and we need to make this town what we want it to be. So I just want to kind of urge civility and friendship and community on people, and hope we can work together. Thanks.
Jack, if I may add,
Yeah.
with the group of candidates that ran this year, I thought it was a very clean, almost back to civility like it was before. I had no problem, and I'm not going to speak for our other candidates, but the 4 people that ran, not counting Linda, because we had Kevin, but the 4 people that ran a fine campaign. We had a very clean and very dignified campaign. And
Yeah, exactly.
That was nice to see after previous times.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree.
Thank you.
That's why I encourage these guys to keep going, because this was the way to do it. Thank you.
Jack, thanks so much.
Anyone else at this time? Yeah.
Okay, I've been sitting here going through the agenda. I've got a litany of questions. I'll see if I can get through them in 5 minutes or less. We have several territories. The first one is Zinzao.
Certiorari.
How do you say it?
Certiorari.
Certiorari. Thank you. Certiorari. Thank you. I will work on that. Can we get the beginning and end of the one for Mr. Zinzao? What it was and what it is?
You don't have the agenda?
I have the agenda, and in each one it fails to tell us how much.
They don't all get to full.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, you don't have to put it in. 550,000 down to 500,000.
That's for Mr. Zintow?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay. And the next one would be Jeffrey Goldstein.
238,500 down to 140,000. This is a partial assessment in the sense that Mr. Goldstein's house is under construction. This was his assessment, this is his reduced assessment as of taxable status date for a partially completed residence. He has submitted an appraisal for the finished product at 238,500. So this reduction is just for the 1 year. It will be going back up to the 238,500 at the issuance of the CO.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's new construction, I'm taking it.
It's, yes, but the stage, the snapshot at which the
I get
tax certiorari proceeding is addressed is where it was at March 1st.
Understood. And the last one is huge. Mr. Pacillo.
Still up for it. You want to know the numbers there?
Yes, please.
For 2009, at 2009, he just appealed the building where the facility is. There's two parcels there.
Okay,
There's the building where the facility is, and then there's the parking lot.
okay.
Where he parks his cars as you head west down adjacent to his building.
The whole part where all the new cars and used cars used to be, that whole big area, or just the
Yeah,
small part?
well, yes, a good portion of that parking lot.
Okay.
It's a separate park,
Okay,
where there's no structures on it, it's simply parking.
so did he just appeal on the structure or on both?
Well, I'm getting to it.
Okay,
For 2009, he just appealed on the structure.
okay,
That's why there's only one address there, that's 634 Columbia Turnpike. That, for 2009, it's being reduced from 900,000 to 625,000. The 2010, he appealed both properties. Okay.
Okay.
2010, the 900,000 is coming down to 550, and the smaller parcel, or the, I shouldn't say smaller parcel, but the vacant parcel is coming from 336 down to 200. So it's going to be a total of 750 for the entire facility, the both parcels. That's for 2010 and for 2011, and it's locked in. He can't bring a tax certiorari for 3 successive years thereafter under section 727 of the real property. The sale of this property, which went through in 2009, when it was sold, so the purchase price of the entire parcel, both the building as well as the vacant land, was $550,000. So we feel that we're doing very well with this site.
so for 2011, his total is going to be, and for the next 3 years, will be 550.
No, the total will be 750. 550 for the building, 200 for the parking.
Okay. Alright. Now, I guess this next one is for you, Jim. Where does the money come from to offset these chargebacks?
Well,
I mean, I know it comes from the county ultimately, but then we give back to the county.
yeah,
Do we have an allowance in our budget for this?
no, it doesn't work. We don't cut a check for it. When we do next year's assessments based on the assessed value of all the land in town. So your tax bill is based on that number, and that'll come out of that number and be reflected in next year's tax bill. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
So, for this, just to get it straight in my mind, for this year, we had a budget of total budget of somewhere near $20 million.
Yes.
Okay. So, if we if we project forward and it goes up a tiny bit, whatever that number is, all this money that has been settled is going to be added into that sum, and then the rest of the taxpayers,
No, it's
or am I
It's not
getting it
added
wrong?
into the sum. We never cut a check for the difference in the dollar amounts. What it does is reduces the total value of the town, which in essence raises the tax rate of everybody else. So the total value of the town is $1 million, and we,
It says in here that the order will provide that the county pay the town share of the refund and charge back the town in next year's tax
yeah.
levy. So it sounds like it's coming out of our pocket one way or the other.
It does, but there's no line on the budget for
It's just
tax
part of,
settlements, yeah.
there's no line
No.
item for that?
No.
Where does it normally, okay.
Yeah, it's part of the tax bill we get from the county.
I get it. Okay, it's part of the tax bill from the county. Gotcha. Now, okay. The 2007 Jeep Grand Cherokee. What are we paying for that?
$16,000,
What's the mileage on that car?
37,000.
How did we come up with that number?
Fair market value.
Yeah, it's, Chief might be able to speak better, but if you go on, any of the websites that give you value for a car, it's worth a little less than that, but it's got $3,000 or $4,000 worth of equipment on it that,
It's emergency
the lights
vehicle.
on, the radio on, things like that.
Okay, because I'm thinking a normal 2007 Cherokee. All right.
I
So
think
this
it's
is actually an
about-
emergency vehicle with all the bells and whistles already built into it.
It's equipped for the, you want,
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
The fire department has surplused it. We could save 10 grand over the cost of a new four-wheel drive, and it'll provide the four-wheel drive needs of the department for the next couple of years.
That was going to be my next question. What's the normal mileage for one of our four-wheel drive cars a year? I mean, do they only get pulled into emergency, or are they daily use, or?
They're daily use, but they're assigned one driver, so they drive 5 shifts a week. Well, we try and do that.
Right.
The sergeants, if there's 2 sergeants assigned to the car, the sergeants are lower mileage officers than patrol officers.
Okay.
So we try and suppress the mileage on the four-wheel drive. We try to keep the fleet with at least 2 four-wheel drive vehicles for off-road incidents
Sure.
year-round, and particularly for snowstorms in the winter. This opportunity arose just in the last 30 days or so. The fire department has surplus this four-wheel drive. So it's an opportunity for us to acquire for $16,000 what we were preparing to spend next year, 28 or so thousand. So we're trying to help our budget along for next year a little early.
Thank you, Chief.
No problem.
One last question. The PDD on Phillips Road. What kind of construction are we looking at there?
Residential.
Sorry?
Residential, mixed residential.
Mixed, so 1 family, 2 families?
Some are single family and some are townhouses. It's like a 60-30 per acre.
Okay, and how many units total?
We'll see. It's not determined yet. They'll get a number that they'll be able to go up to, but we'll do it in phases, just like most subdivisions, they do it in phases.
Between 80 and 100, something in there.
Okay,
Still fluid right now.
okay. Just fair warning to, I know you guys are going to schedule a public hearing about that. One of the questions that I'd like to see answered during that public hearing is, and I am all for residential housing, and I know the section looks like is that area right next to the soccer fields where they've been dumping all the fill for the last couple of years.
Right across the street from the soccer field. The back of it abuts up the turn of that.
Okay. That's all great, I'm a big fan of that, but the owner that's asking us to give him a plan to develop a district is also the owner of a vacant gas station for as far back as I can remember, and a vacant McDonald's that goes even farther back. And, well, no, I'm sorry, not as far back. I would like to see some sort of, what's the word? Yeah, I would like to see something done with those properties instead of, it looks to me from a person that drives by it every day, is that the back is being turned on those properties while he concentrates on something else that can make him money. I would love to see those things put back.
Well, your
in
wishes
there.
come true, Ed, because both properties are under contract through
Really?
Tyler Culberson, who is George Whitbeck's greatest.
Okay, so they're under contract, do we know what for?
I'm not, he didn't tell me, I'm not quite sure. They've got it, they're working on it, he's very confident, and actually he asked if they could put a sold sign on it. So I'm gonna do whatever.
That is really good news, Mr. McKay. I think everybody's gonna be glad to see something going there. Maybe they can give us some more information on that during the public hearing next month. That'll go a long way.
Tyler, very good to talk to you.
Great. Thank you very much, I'm all done.
Thank you. Al?
Al Battersby, Greenbush. Question on the, how many people from Bruin received their credit for Lincoln Service Award?
Well, I honestly don't know how it's, I don't know. Between 10 and 12, something like that, I would say.
Yeah, it's lower than it used to be.
Yeah.
obviously.
Why did it take so long? I thought, and I didn't get a chance to check it today, that list is supposed to be published by,
I think July 1st is
I think it's March, posted for 30 days, so people have if they're not on the list, they have 30 days to respond in writing to the agency if they want to protest why they didn't get it. What took so long to have it now?
a couple of things. They had some turnover there. The person who maintained all their points, they handed it to us, and we went through and reviewed it, sent it back with some questions, and went back and forth a couple times. And so that's what's taking a little bit longer than usual.
It's to Jim's credit, Hal, because they, the reporting standards, if you will, were really, Jim was very regimented about ensuring that the reporting standards to us were complete, and until, he wasn't gonna sign off until they were complete, so I think it's to Jim's credit that, even though it was delayed, it was in our interest to make sure that, even we took the extra time, that we got the proper information.
I agree with that. I just wanted to add that I believe that this resolution was on an earlier agenda for a couple of months back, maybe in the summer. And we pulled it off at that point to review the names. And I know Jim and several other board members have gone back and forth. And I believe have done due diligence on this. So we have it corrected, and what we're doing tonight will be appropriate, and there won't be any ramifications from this that would affect us negatively. So I think it's, we took our time on it and it was okay.
Good. Who owns the equipment at this rescue squad? Basically, the fly car, the ambulances, that's the towns?
They're owned by Bruin. They're titled to Bruin.
Every vehicle?
That's my understanding. My understanding was that only Rescue 62 was titled to the town and then ultimately the ambulance district right before disposal. But the rest of all their assets are in the name of Bruin.
That night. Old business? Back, forget the exact month, or months, it was brought before the board for the old Phoenix building that was taken over by the Power Authority, and I'm not sure that that's the correct term to use for it. Okay. That the town of North Greenbush was going to oversee the inspections for the addition of the building. Who's overseeing the 2 lots that are definitely within the town of East Greenbush? And I don't remember that being part of the discussion on the site plan and the digging up of Craig Boulevard.
I don't know what you mean by overseeing. I mean, my office has been going over there doing inspection for the parking lot. The reason that they're utilizing those outlots, if you will, on Craig Boulevard is for security. I don't know if you've ever been over there, but you cannot get in there without proper clearance. My staff had to go through a whole clearance process to have IDs to get just on the site. So that equipment and storage stuff is there for their security. That's their Homeland Security is telling them to do this. The digging in Craig Boulevard is to put in their security, their fiber optic materials, whatever I gotta tell you folks, it's kind of a secret. They don't give you much because of Homeland Security. We're privy to certain things, but not all of it. They're encasing layers out in the concrete that I'm not sure, probably a bunker buster may have to get to it. But that's what they're doing. They had to run drainage from the site down to 3rd Avenue, through Crawford doors, through, I think, Albany, interior in that area. That's what they're doing.
So those 2 lots within the town of East Greenbush won't be built on. They're just using those for staging areas during the construction.
They purchased one, it's our understanding they purchased one, but they have no intentions right now. I can't tell you they won't build on it.
Right, I mean,
They would like to purchase that entire street. And that's because of, again, possible expansion or their Homeland Security is telling them how to operate.
is there any truth to the rumor that North Greenbush would like to annex that part? I've heard that from East Greenbush, that they're looking or pursuing annexing anything of East Greenbush?
Nothing.
Very good, thank you.
Anyone else at this
Thanks,
time?
Al.
Nate, you go first.
I'm back.
I got married in August, and my wife made me promise her that I couldn't come back to the town board meeting until I took her to Hawaii. So I went to Hawaii last week, and that's going to be my excuse anyway. That's the official record. No, I just want to take a second to thank Rick for everything you've done for me. I've been here since 2009. I moved in September. I attended my first board meeting. It was actually a budget hearing in November. And Rick has opened his doors to me many times. We've exchanged many emails, and he's provided a lot of information and guidance for someone as young and inexperienced as I am, and how things work and different things, and providing different views on things. So I appreciate everything you've done for me. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. John?
John Stevenson, Luther Road. Can you tell me who paid for those ambulances? Nobody knows?
You're a member of this right now.
It was the ambulance district, wasn't it?
What?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I'm waiting for you to realize.
I suspect it was probably a mixed bag over time. I don't recall, since I've been on board, and
Well, let me ask you this,
maybe-
if you don't know.
Well,
Let
I
me
don't
ask you this to
recall
go along
us,
with it.
any checks being cut to Bruins to directly purchase any ambulances. I don't recall anything like that.
In the past, the ambulances have been purchased by the town. through bond or whatever. The two ambulances that were there were owned by the town, they were turned in as a trade-in on the vehicles they have now, I assume. So, who in the town signed over the vehicles and let them trade them in?
Rescue 62 was.
Not I'm talking
right.
Rescue 62, I'm talking
Okay,
the ambulance.
The ambulances, right, yeah. There was a desire at one time on the part of Bruin for the ambulance district to pay for ambulances directly. Up till now, there hasn't been any, such,
Yeah, but that's not my question. My question is, how did the two ambulances that were there that they traded in get turned over to Bruin when the town owned them? Somebody ought to look into that, I would think.
in terms of us
Yeah,
turning over
well, I
title to
mean,
Bruin.
you got town equipment being traded in to a private organization basically now.
So you're saying at one time that we held title and it's been turned over, is that
Yeah,
what you're?
well,
That's what
whether
you're
you
saying?
held the, yeah, you should have held the titles, and I
So
believe
you're
you
saying at
did.
one time we
And
didn't
I
hold the
believe you
titles,
did.
and now we don't?
And I don't know what happened to the titles or how they got registered or turned
But
around.
you're saying at one time we held title, and now
Yes.
they currently hold
Yes.
title, that's
Yes.
your understanding of?
Yes. Okay, and they were traded in on the vehicles that are there now.
If it took place, it didn't take place under, at least to my recollection, that would have to have been done by board resolution. And I don't recall from January of '08, since I've been here, I don't recall any such resolution. So if it happened, it happened
Then you
before.
better report a couple of vehicles stolen.
Pardon me?
You better report a couple of vehicles stolen.
Well, like I said, I'm just not aware of it taking place before that date. If it happened, it must have happened before '08 then.
Well, the ambulances were bought last year, and the others were traded in last year, so.
We can talk
Or
about
we're just gonna let it fly by.
The last ambulances they bought, they took out an equity loan on the building. There's two there now, right, Rick? But they have an equity loan on those two ambulances.
I'm not asking how they paid for them.
I'm
All
not.
right, I don't know which ones you're talking about.
The ones they traded in and the ones that are there now.
I seem to recall something in the OSC audit that alluded to the, I think, the previous supervisor signing title, but I'm not positive. Transferring
That
title.
may be because Bob and John were employees in that, so.
Right, I've seen there was some mention of it, I think.
Yeah, there was something in the OSC audit,
So I-
but they didn't mention what vehicles they were, because they couldn't find out. But according to a FOIL, the vehicles were owned by the town in 2008 or 2009, I don't remember the exact date. They were listed as town assets in the FOIL that we received.
So John, we'll try to have an answer for you by December.
We would have had to have transferred title. I mean, if there was a certificate, it probably would have been a certificate of title. It would have been a transferable registration, but someone with the town would have had to have signed that.
Yes,
And that,
and according to the opinion of the Attorney General, the vehicles were worth more than $1,000.
Mhm.
They should have been bid out, not just turned over to the private entity.
Mhm.
That's the opinion of the Attorney General,
Mhm.
and I can get you the number if you want.
No, I'm just claiming, I'm trying to, I guess, answer your question within the context of my involvement here with the board, and as to what happened before that date, I'm not sure. But I can say that there was no formal transfer of title, since I've been here. If it happened, you're talking about a possible transfer since I've been on the board, but I can say I don't recall anything formally taking place during that time. It's something we can discuss with Bruin and maybe get some of the details on it.
Okay. Second part of my question is, do you know what the qualifications are to qualify for the retirement system? Where they get your points?
Where they get their, sorry?
Yeah, how do they accumulate their points? What's the procedure for accumulating points for the retirement system?
Different activities, and depending on the activity, you get a certain number of points for it. If you get over 50 points, you get credit for
Do
your
you
retirement.
know what the activities are?
I do, not off the top of my head, but I went through them all.
Is participating in what they call the call system part of that? In other words, riding on the ambulance?
Going on calls is the point activity, yes.
Are you sure the 12 people that received the credits rode the ambulance?
I can tell you that if someone claimed credit for riding the ambulance, there's documentation there signed by them and supervisors saying they rode the
Okay.
ambulance.
The true documentation is if you check the PCRs, which are patient care reports, that has to list the name of the person that was on the call. It's a violation of federal law to put your name on that if you were not on the call. So that's the only true way of checking to see if they did meet the qualifications. You're saying 12 people are qualifying, when it's my understanding they only have 4 or 5
But
riding members.
there's other ways to accumulate points besides going
Yes,
on rides.
but you can't just accumulate points because you're an officer. You get 25 points for this
Right,
and 25 for that.
right.
It's my understanding from Penflex that you have to ride the ambulance.
John, are you insinuating then that people that put down their time didn't accrue the time? I mean,
I'm
do you
not
have any
insinuating
specific
anything, I'm
policy?
trying to get a clear picture of who qualified and who didn't and how.
All right, do we have a list of who qualifies for it?
Yes.
Because last year there was 19 people, and OSC said that better than half of them, I think it was, didn't even qualify.
my team.
I think based on that audit, previously,
Say what?
I think based on what happened previously, there was a lot more stringent kind of looking out for this year. So the fact that we delayed this resolution until tonight, it was our understanding through Jim and through other people on the board having contact with Bruin that everyone that qualifies for that has actually qualified. And I feel comfortable with it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman? Anybody else at this time?
Eileen Grant, Celeste Drive. Just one brief follow-up to what Ed asked. On Phillips Road, when you have the hearing, will the number of residences going up still be flexible, or will it be nailed down? So I think it'd be difficult to conduct the hearing without knowing how many houses are going to be, or how many residences.
It should be,
In fact, it might not even comply.
it might not be exact, though, it should be pinned down quite a bit closer, but it's just a change in the zoning and not an actual subdivision or site plan approval. So they can't actually put houses in, they'll change the zoning and then go for subdivision and site plan approval after that.
But the hearing is to change the current zoning law, correct?
Right, and it'll have a better idea, using the actual law of how many units will be in there. Depends how it's written, all PDDs are written with them.
Mhm. But how many families are gonna live in those units will be clear at the time of the hearing, is the
Yeah.
question?
The application,
Or the maximum,
Is
the
for-
maximum.
Yeah, the maximum.
100
The
units.
maximum.
single residence, duplexes, and quadplexes, four units.
The
The
maximum,
maximum.
The maximum
100.
build out will be specified.
Now, as development progresses, they may find, excuse me, that there's a larger market for single family than duplexes.
okay, I
So,
think the
it'll be
concern
flexible,
would be
but the
unlikely
maximum-
to be about it growing lesser, it would be about it growing
Well, the
greater.
maximum
maximum.
would be 100
Yeah,
at the time of,
Could be phased in over time,
okay.
depending.
Thank you. And then, my next question, I don't know if you guys have missed me or not, is about audits. Any audit, the AUD, the mini audit, the current audit that's due now, how are we coming along with any audit?
Jim?
Jim, you did miss me. Say, tell the truth.
Yeah, we are well behind our schedule for the audit slash AUD. Some of it my fault, some of it the auditor's fault, some of it just timing on my part, to be honest with you. Now the budget's done tonight, I'll be able to look at it and give a couple things to clean up, to get back to the auditors. And I think I said throughout early fall, late summer, that I expected it to be done, and just never crossed the finish line on that, so it should be coming relatively soon.
Okay, and then what about the non-AUD audit that should be underway at this time? The,
Well, the AUD numbers will come from the audit, so that's what I was talking about. When I was talking about the audit, we'll use the numbers that come out of the audit to complete the AUD.
and is there a report, an existing report or a report coming along on addressing the findings of, the significant findings in the mini audit?
Yes, there is one.
And it's where?
It might be on my webpage, I'm not sure if it is, but I have one. If you ask for, if you send a request, then I can send it to you.
Okay, off the top of your head, I think there was something like, of the significant findings, is something in the teens?
No,
Do you know how many
I would say,
have been addressed?
I think teens is overstating it probably, but all of them have been in some form or another addressed to some form of completion. Some are done, some are in process, some we're monitoring as we go. Some we're going to get feedback from the auditors that come in this year, for this year. So we've made progress on all of the things that we mentioned.
And the auditors for this year are expected when?
The auditors, they're expected first quarter next year.
Will they be addressing the same things on the audit that's not done this year? Or will the new audit have a different scope?
No, it'll be the same thing, it's the same process every year. And we hope that findings from the prior year are not on the current year. Is that what you're asking?
Kind of.
Okay.
Any idea if they will be or not?
But some of them will be to some extent. We've addressed a lot of them on the one, but some will still be there in some form or another, probably.
Okay.
Jim, when you have a new audit, conducted, do you share the findings of the prior audit with the new auditor?
That was part of the delay this year, was we switched auditors and they had to go to the other auditors, go through their working papers, that caused us.
I just forgot something. I'm sorry, Rick, just take a second. The, two things. They allude to a full agenda. Is it possible that you guys could start sharing that on the web instead of the abbreviated one? It would save me a lot of time. I wouldn't have to ask you so many questions. It's all in there and you wouldn't have to listen to me as much. So you're motivated there. And the last one, I guess is for you, Jim. Under the adoption of the annual budget, it says the 2012 preliminary budget as amended be adopted. Has there been any change in the budget since the last meeting?
Yes. More detail on that. Yeah, we've done some changes to what was published as a preliminary budget. The taxes have gone up a little bit. I think in the preliminary budget, total levy was up 1.1%. We're up to 1.32% now. We've done, based on some recommendations from CFAC and some other things, we've given raises to non-union employees. We've put a little money aside in the judgment line. We've increased our contingency line a little bit. And we've also reduced further our interfund borrowing line in both highway and general fund with that increase.
Non-union employees?
Yes.
Who is that?
Town hall employees
Town hall
primarily.
employees.
A carbon union contract. I'm just thinking out loud, but it seems to me like when you make those kind of changes, it would be time for another public hearing before an adoption. But that's just my 2 cents. I'm done.
Thanks, Ed.
Anyone else at this time? Okay, with that, I'll move that we.
He's not putting his hand
Oh,
up.
Mark, I didn't see.
Hi, Martin Science, 6 Robert Lane. Let's see, we had that snowstorm, shall we call it Halloween snowstorm? I'm still not sure who it was that did some trimming of one of my trees, whether it was Public Works or National Grid. Because I called up National Grid 3 times, and 2 times they kept saying that it wasn't them and that it was the town. And I had called the town and they said that it wasn't them either. So it must have been some gremlins in between, but I wanted to think, if it was the town, the prompt cleanup within several days after that, or maybe it was National Grid. When it was pointed out to them that I'm right by August Gate in August Gate where there is no overhead power lines or utilities, everything is underground. So if there's a question of why would they trim the tree or cut some branches? So at this point in time, if it was Public Works, thank you. And if it wasn't, well, I already sent them an email.
Are you
thinking
it was a good thing?
or
Yeah, it was a good thing that you guys, if you came out and
You're happy?
and you picked up, I'm happy.
It was us. Anyone else at this time? Bonnie?
Bonnie Lester, 7 Western Avenue, Hampton Manor. I'm thinking about Sherwood Avenue. A while back, there was talk about wanting to put sidewalks on Sherwood Avenue. Maybe I'm remembering wrong, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. Was anybody talking about grant money coming in to do that? And like, are we still waiting, or am I wrong?
Many
on
years
that?
ago, when Bob was here, we were going to have, there was a study on putting sidewalks down. It's been on the books for a long time. Unfortunately, there's a lot of repair with the water and sewer lines that have to be done. That kind of put the thing on hold. And another thing that we weren't happy with was the way that the design looked when it came in. It didn't look like sidewalks. It looked like a place where you could park your car on the road. So it didn't go much farther than that. The fact that it's a county road makes it a little more difficult too. At that point, we were kind of all on the same page. Right now, I don't think we're on the same page. Is it still on the books, Matt? I mean, it may be in there in your office floating around.
We have $300,000
Not much is
for over
done.
$2 million project, so
Okay,
it's
so
a
you-
significant difference.
Were you seeking any kind of grant money for that, or was the town gonna, set
No,
up
we
the
always
budget?
seek grant money. Anytime we can.
The 300 we have is grant money.
And we've actually kept it there, and we're pushing it back. We talked with DOT to hold on to it in hopes that over the next few years, we can find money in a different area. Because they wanted to take it away from us. But because of the term limit, but we've worked with them and talked over with the program manager, and they're gonna keep it on the books for a little while longer.
I don't think anybody thinks it's a bad project. It's just
Yeah.
unreasonable right now.
I'd say your best bet too, Bonnie, is contact the county legislators too. They're the ones that can push for the money up there. So that's where we really need to make the push, since it's a county road.
Okay, well, I just thought I'd start here, because this is
Yeah,
our
no,
first place to start pushing.
They're the ones that can start with this, they're the ones, our voices up there to deal with the county infrastructure, so reach out to your side of the aisle and hopefully we want to move along on it.
The 3 best places in town that I noticed, I've talked to the supervisor about this in the past, is Sherwood Avenue, and they're all county roads too, ironically.
Yeah.
Sherwood Avenue, Hayes Grove from 9 and 20 to Phillips. You're talking one side of the road, obviously, so you don't have to deal with utility infrastructure. And then on Phillips Road from 9 and 20 down to Start Ave. Those would be 3 great places to create those walking linkages, and it would be huge for the people in those neighborhoods. They're all county roads. As Phil indicated, you've got that issue of, the policy of the county is not to construct sidewalks along county roads. In fact, the the construction standards for county roads, as you'll notice, don't even have really much of a shoulder. So they're pretty limited and constrained. Doesn't mean that a request, as Phil indicated, couldn't be made special, if you will, sort of like almost special legislation, like they have
Well,
at the state
I
level.
remember you guys talking about it up there at some point, about wanting to get sidewalks in there.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you?
I remember you guys up there talking about it at some point about wanting to put sidewalks on. There's a discussion about putting sidewalks on Sherwood Avenue.
Right,
Yeah.
and again, it's a money issue like everything else, and how do we deal with the financing? Do we want to be bonding something like that? I mean, it's a competing financial objective that sits right along all the other priorities, and you have to pick and choose, so. But they're definitely laudable projects, and, they're things to kind of keep in mind as goals, I guess, But again, they're put on a pecking order like everything else when it comes to public works projects. And, they're competing with all the other things we have going on right now, including all the work on Route 4 and everything else, so. But great idea without a doubt, Bon.
Anyone else at this time?
Patrick Secor, State Street. I was just wondering, do you guys have any plans for around state decorations for the centerpiece and for the roundabout?
The roundabout, when it's done, it should be May 28th. Everything should be done. It's going to be landscaped, and paved, and completely taken care of.
Okay.
And
Well, one of the things, with the flag, one of the things we were looking at, years and years ago, I drove to my old roommate's place in Connecticut when we went to school. And we drove to Delaware, right in the middle of the town, there was a large, huge flagpole with a huge American flag on it. It was pretty impressive. For the last couple of years, last 10 years, we were talking about putting one at 9 and 20 and 4 and 40. We still might, but it's also come to, some people have brought up, it would look good, maybe at the Kels roundabout. So that's a possible thing to do.
Okay. I was asking just because I had an idea that maybe for just a portion of the side, towards Columbia, have something just special, like a little design for CHS or something.
No, what I suggest you do is just contact Mr. Maston, come in and talk to him. He's easy to talk to, and give us your ideas. Because that's not, that part of it is not completely finalized.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else at this time? Okay. Move on to the resolutions. Rick, you go.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I move that the minutes of the town board meeting held on October 9th, 2011, as submitted by the town clerk, be approved as submitted. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Supervisor King? Yes. Councilor Bryan?
yes.
Councilor Fellow?
Yeah.
Yes. 161, 2011, approval of 2010 service credit for volunteers for WF Bruin Emergency Squad Inc. The town of East Greenbush is the sponsor of the service award program for volunteer ambulance workers for WF Bruin Emergency Squad Inc. The town's contract provider for emergency medical service for the East Greenbush Ambulance District. In accordance with the NL 219-M, Subdivision 9, the President and Secretary, the Chief of Bruin, have duly certified to the East Greenbush Town Board a list containing those volunteer ambulance workers designated as program participants who qualify for service credit for fiscal year 2010. The Town Board, having received and reviewed the list, hereby approves the list. And at this time, I would also like to thank all the volunteers that work at Berlin. They do put a lot of hours in. It is volunteer service for many of them, as well as some of the paid ambulance people. And I think we have a state-of-the-art Berlin facility. They can pretty much answer any call within minutes. And they do a great service for the town, and I'm very supportive of Berlin. So anyway, I'd like to pass that resolution.
I'd be happy to second that, Sue, and, you know, I echo Sue's sentiment regarding brewing. You know, great job in following up on this documentation, and, you know, I've availed myself to the services of brewing on a couple of occasions, both my wife and I can tell you, when they're there, you thank God they're there. So,
Councilperson Engel?
Yes.
Councilperson Matters?
yes.
Supervisor McKee? Councilperson Malone?
Yes.
Councilperson Holmes?
Yes.
One sixty-two two thousand 11, resolution approving and authorizing the settlement of tax cert proceeding entitled Robert C. Zinzo v. Town of Greenbush. Town Cert Council, Assessor's Office have recommended the settlement agreement. The years 2010 and 11, the settlement and order will provide that the county pay the town share of the refund and chargeback the town next year's tax levy. I move the foregoing resolution. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Councilperson Malone?
Yes.
Councilperson O'Brien?
Yes.
Supervisor McKee? Councilperson Matters?
Yes.
Councilperson Engel?
Yes.
163, 2011, resolution authorizing the supervisor to enter into a lease with the Miracle League Inc. The New York State Legislature has duly authorized the town to enter into a lease with the Miracle League with terms and conditions contained therein. The supervisor is hereby authorized to enter into a lease agreement with the Miracle League Inc. And the Miracle League may exercise all its rights and responsibilities pursuant to the lease according thereto. And as we remember last month, we had a nice ceremony, and thank Mr. Kevin Curry and Mr. McDonald, and I'm pleased to move this resolution. Do I have a second?
I'll be happy to second that, Rick, and I appreciate being able to do so. And I'd also like to take a moment to thank Joel Carty for all of his efforts in both bringing the legislation, the home rule legislation, which was kind of tricky, really, on this proposal, to fruition, and as well as drafting the lease.
Thank you.
Supervisor McKee? Councilperson Matters?
Yes.
Councilperson O'Brien?
Yes.
Councilperson Malone?
Yes.
Councilperson Engel?
Yes. 164, 2011, adoption of the annual budget for fiscal year 2012. The Town of East Greenbush's preliminary budget for the year 2012 has been on file with the town clerk as required by law. Pursuant to legal notices, the town board held a public hearing on November 10th, 2011, in connection with the proposed adoption of the preliminary budget for 2012, and all comments were duly noted by the town board in consideration of such adoption. Motion that the 2012 preliminary budget as amended be adopted by East Greenbush Town Board as the annual budget for fiscal year 2012. And before I ask for approval, a second on this motion, I just want to once again thank Jim. I think we have an extremely responsible budget. It's a conservative budget. We're below the 2% cap, which was allowed, and a lot of work went into this. I'm exhausted. Jim, I think you should take a couple days off too. And Jimmy, I spent a lot of time in recently on him also. So just thank you for the combined effort from everybody on this budget. And I'd like to move that. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Councilperson Engel?
Yes.
Councilperson O'Brien?
I am going to vote yes on the budget, and I do want to echo Sue's sentiment, thanking not only Jim, but all the department heads who really worked very diligently on their budgets this year. It's a tough time when you're asked to do more with less, and I know we have been asking that for a long time. But we certainly balance the needs of the department heads with those of the taxpayers. After all, we are all taxpayers, all of us sitting up here as well. So we certainly feel the impacts of the budget, and we try to minimize those impacts as much as possible. This year, with the tax cap levy, certainly that held us, and we really are accountable to that, and we've stuck with that strict guideline. And while it is a little bit more than we had hoped, we're still going to be maintaining services, which is a good thing for the residents of the town. We just heard about some of the services tonight. Mr. Seiss was talking about DPW, and we know the job that they do. And not only them, I don't want to single out just one department. All the departments here really take their job seriously, and they know they represent our community. So I just want to say that it's never easy to vote for a budget increase. I know that when you run politically, those things will be said, that you voted for this budget or that budget and you increased the tax levy. But I do think there's a responsibility that goes with that, and I take it seriously. I wish we could keep it at a zero increase and again, maintain all the services. I don't see that as a possibility. So looking at it in a conservative kind of viewpoint, I think we really held to that, and I'm going to vote yes on this budget.
President Graves?
Yes.
Councilman Matters?
I too echo Jeannie's sentiments on the budget insofar as, and notwithstanding my vote this evening, Jim and Sue did a fantastic job, I think, in crafting a difficult budget. There are a lot of pluses in this budget, and I'm just going to really stay on a high note in that respect by saying I'm glad the non-unionized employees are getting a COLA this year. It's well deserved. There are a lot of other issues that had to be reconciled, obviously in this budget, as they always do in every year's budget. And so I thank everyone, as well as Pete Stenson and his fiscal advisory committee. They did a great job of kind of behind the scenes making a contribution to the process, and working with the supervisor and working with Sue and Jim as well. So thank you, Pete. No.
You vote no?
Yes.
You vote yes? Yes, you vote no.
I'm voting no.
Okay. That was confusing. Phil? You feel the floor?
Yes.
I just need to comment on the last budget vote, on the last vote. As having served in the county legislature as a minority member, I know it's easy to vote no on a budget, because I've done it. But we offered a plan for the county executive and for the rest of the legislature. I didn't see a plan forthcoming from the minority here, and I'm disappointed that that didn't happen, because certainly kudos were given out to the department heads and for the hard work that was done into Pete Stenson and his group. But it's easy to vote no. It's harder to come up with a plan and to stick to it. So that I'm sorry, I need to make that comment. Okay, with that.
Understood.
Okay, I am going to vote on, propose Resolution 165, 2011. And I see that we've got some students here from Columbia tonight, and this is all about you guys. So pay attention. This is a resolution recognizing the accomplishment of the Columbia High School sports program. Several sports teams at Columbia High School have distinguished themselves during this current academic year. Our community celebrates these athletic achievements and victories as a positive reflection on the student athlete, the school district, and the town. We make a motion tonight that the East Greenbush Town Board pause in its deliberation to recognize all the Columbia High School sports teams and their winning season. And I just wanted to say what they were. The football team, as everyone probably is aware, the football team, they had a record of 8 wins, 2 losses. They earned the team a playoff in Section 2 Class AA final, which was the Super Bowl against Shenandoah. The results weren't as we would like, but they got there, which is the important thing. Columbia High School girls volleyball team had an overall record of 14 wins and 5 losses. The girls team qualified to host the first round of the Section 2 quarterfinals. And the Columbia High School girls cross-country team was the Rensselaer County champion for the 8th year in a row. And I think that that's pretty special, so I'm glad that I can introduce this resolution tonight. Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second that. Even before we vote, I'd like to say that I've had the opportunity in the last couple of weeks to speak at 2 different functions for Columbia. And it wasn't sports teams, it was leadership, our team, Sue was with them. And it was really nice, and it does give you a calming feeling for the future, because the kids were great, and thank you all. They were great.
Councilman Ray?
Yes.
Supervisor McKee? Councilman Manis?
Yes.
Councilman Malone?
Yes.
Councilman Mandel?
Yes.
166-2011, is a resolution approving and authorizing settlement of tax cert proceeding entitled Jeffrey Goldstein v. Town of East Greenbush. Town Cert Council and Assessor's Office have recommended a settlement agreement following values for the year 2011-2012. Move the foregoing resolution. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second the
Councilman Malone?
Yes.
Councilman Ray?
Yes.
Supervisor McKee?
Yes.
Councilman Manis?
Yes.
Councilman Mandel?
Yes.
167-2011, a resolution approving and authorizing settlement of tax cert proceeding entitled Lucillo Ford V.G. v. Town of East Greenbush. Town Cert Council and the Assessor's Office have recommended a settlement agreement for the years 09-10, 10-11, 11-12. Settlement order will provide the county pay the town share of the refund and charge back to the town in next year's tax levy. I move the foregoing resolution. Do I have a second, please?
Second, the Phil?
Councilman Malone?
Yes.
Councilman Manis?
Yes.
Supervisor McKee? Councilman Ray?
Yes.
Councilman Mandel?
Yes. 168-2011, authorization to purchase 2007 Jeep Grand Cherokee to remain a reliable fleet of 4x4 vehicles. The Chief of Police has requested the town to replace its current 2003 Dodge Durango and recommended the purchase of a 2007 Jeep Cherokee from Greenbush Fire District 3. I'll make that motion. Anybody want to second?
I'll second that.
You switched on you.
You switched it, okay.
Keep you awake.
Councilman Mandel?
Yes.
Councilman Malone?
Yes, I wanted to thank the chief for his work on this. I spoke with a few people about the pricing of this truck, with the mileage on it, all the lights and sirens and everything else that we have on it. We're getting a fantastic deal. These trucks are going for $14,500, and for us to get them at that price is a great deal, and it also helps out, our other town entity there, the fire department. So we can, yes, thank you.
Supervisor McKee?
Yes.
Councilman Manis?
Yes.
Councilman Ray?
Yes. 169-2011, Town Board request to act as lead agency for the Whitbeck Plan Development District. Hart Engineering, on behalf of the applicant for Whitbeck subdivision, has submitted an application for Plan Development District, or PDD, site plan approval and subdivision approval for a project located to the south of Columbia Turnpike, north of Hayes Road on Phillips Road. The town board wishes to assume lead agency status in connection with the coordinated secret review of the project. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second that, Jenny.
Thanks.
Councilman Ray?
Yes.
Councilman Malone?
Yes.
Supervisor McKee?
Yes.
Councilman Manis?
Yes.
Councilman Mandel?
I'm going to abstain from this one, and just for a brief explanation, I do not have any financial interest in this project. As far as I know, none of my family members have a financial interest in this project. My brother Steve is the engineer working for Whitbeck on this project, so I will abstain to, just in case anybody thinks that's a conflict. I'll abstain. And I'll look for my ethics committee to let me know in the future.
The last resolution I have is 170-2011, and this will be to schedule a public hearing with that Plan Development District. The town board does hereby schedule a public hearing to consider comments from the public concerning the possible granting of the Whitbeck Plan Development District. With such public hearing to take place at the East Greenbush Town Hall on the 14th day of December 2011 at 6:30. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Jenny.
Thank you.
Councilman Ray?
Yes.
Councilman Malone?
Yes.
Supervisor McKee?
Yes.
Councilman Manis?
Yes.
Councilman Mandel?
I'll abstain from that also.
At this time, if any board members have anything to add, please vote.
I just want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving and safe Thanksgiving, and see you in December.
I just wanted to bring something up. It's regarding the public workshop that's going to be on December 7th. I know, I hear a lot of, comments whether positive or negative, about the parks that we have in this town, whether it's the town park, Hampton Manor, the pocket parks, even just roadways, anything. If you have a complaint, if you have an idea, you really should be present at this workshop. Behan Planning, I've met with them a few times. Mike Allen from Behan sat in at the Youth Commission and Parks Task Force meeting that we had this past Monday night. And I can't even begin to explain, and Spire can't even begin to explain the incredible amounts of ideas that they have on this plan. I mean, this map is bigger than me, and the trails, the connections, the ideas, and it's not just necessarily creating new things, but it's also improving on the existing places that we currently have. Whether it's handicap accessible bathrooms in the town park, and redoing the beach, and redoing that entire lower area by the beach, expanding on the pavilion, creating shaded structures, the idea of potentially having a swimming pool. I mean, all of these things are in the process of happening, and this meeting is really just the jumping off point. And if you have an idea and you can't be present, email me, and I can pass on your idea to these people, because that's what this is for. If you've ever had a complaint, and if you've ever had a thought, it needs to be heard, because, you know, everybody knows that we have recreational needs that probably aren't being met, but our parks as they stand look absolutely fabulous, and I know that we can do so much more. So if you think that you have something to say, you should really be there, because the town could look even better than it does. And if you can't be there, contact me and I'll pass it along, because it's important.
Well said.
Well said.
Thank you.
With that, everybody, a safe and happy Thanksgiving, and I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll say.
It's almost over. Oh, yeah.